Hello, and welcome to the Bringing Up Business podcast, where we dive into the world of business and parenting. I am your host, Kaila Sachse, toddler mom and owner of a creative and marketing agency called Umari Digital that specializes in websites, marketing campaigns, and branding. Today's guest, Ana Barajas, is a mom to 3 beautiful kids, and she is on a mission to protect people who are renovating real estate or building new properties. Ana is the co-founder of Build Safe Escrow, a company bringing financial protection and trust to construction and renovation projects through milestone-based payments. Her journey began when a contractor vanished with her life savings. I can't even imagine. During a home renovation, an experience that sparked her mission to create a safer path for others. With a background in corporate marketing and an MBA, Ana brings sharp strategy and deep personal conviction to her work. Today, she leads Build Safe Escrow in empowering property owners, contractors, and developers with escrow solutions that protect project funds and keep projects on track. Ana, we have so much to unpack here. I can't even imagine your story. Oh my gosh. Okay, but first, welcome to the show. Let's welcome you. Hi.
Thank you, Kyla. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate you having this space for us to tell our story. And thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for being here. Okay, we need to dive into this. Tell us what happened. What happened with your home renovation? The contractor vanished? Like, what?
Yes, I mean, it's one of those horror stories that you never hear about. And then when it happened, I started hearing everybody about, everybody. It's so common. But unfortunately, what you see on Instagram, what you see on Facebook, it's all the beautiful stories, people picking up their floors, what trends in paint and all these beautiful things. But the horror stories, of course, you never hear about. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that happened to me and my family. I just found out I was pregnant with my third baby. And so we knew that we needed a bigger home. So my husband and I started looking for a home. Everything was out of our budget. Everything that we wanted was out of our budget. So we decided, let's find a big lot with an older house. We'll renovate it, maybe add square footage. We thought it was super simple. We have always been very hardworking people, so we had some good savings. We also had to sell another property that we had for investment to gather all the funds that we needed for this huge project. We vetted the contractor. We interviewed like 5 contractors. We thought we were doing everything by the book.
Yeah.
The contractor that we ended up hiring had a few projects in the neighborhood, so we went to speak to those people. We thought we did everything that was possible to be, that you had to be done, that you had to do in order to have a successful project.
Yeah.
And yeah, he came. We liked him. We hired him. We liked that he had the project um separated into stages. So we were going to give him deposit here for this stage. Once he finished, he would move on to different stages, and that's how we started. We welcomed the employees that he had. I mean, I honestly, with all my heart, I tried to be the best person. So because they were building my home, so I treated
Yeah.
them with all the respect and love that you can treat a stranger. And um and they started he the city had to come for inspections. The cities take so long for the bureaucracy of that. It's another story. But so they were taking so long, so this guy started, they know how to talk, so he started, listen, let's start ordering some things because the city's taking so long, so give me this deposit here. So we started just giving him checks. We never in a million years thought that he was going to just vanish with our life
Yeah.
savings.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the project, he left. He stopped answering the phone calls. The employees started not showing up.
Mm.
We had a few numbers from them because they were coming every day, and we called and they said, no, he hasn't paid us in over a month. And we're like, what do you mean? We already paid him. So we started hearing from all these people, from the people, from the neighbors, like, hey, have you heard from this guy? And we started with my husband. Oh my God, we were scammed.
Oh,
And and it took so long for us to realize that what had happened, that we had to move on and finish it ourselves,
yeah.
that we said, no, this guy, maybe he's sick, maybe something happened. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that he came. I was pregnant, my belly was huge, I had other two babies, you know. He saw our family, like he played
Yeah.
with our kids. Like, how can a guy like that just grab our money and run?
Right.
And so it was just like a heartbreak. It was just like the biggest heartbreak of my life. I couldn't It was like I had lost all faith in humanity. Like, how can this happen to me, you know? To a good
Yeah.
person. That was my whole thing. And another problem that I had personally was that I was the one giving out the checks. I was the one. And I can understand now, because after investigating and talking to people, these type of things are the ones that can break a marriage, that can break up a
Mhm.
family, you know.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they're blaming you, you gave the checks, you wanted to hire him, you know. It starts the pointing the fingers.
Mhm.
Fortunately, in my case, that didn't happen, but I can see how that can happen. So
Yeah.
we were completely devastated. We had no money to finish our home. We were
No.
paying two mortgages at the same time. I mean, it was just pure chaos. It was just pure devastation and chaos. I I would go to bed crying.
Mhm.
I would wake up crying. I was thinking about that guy 24/7 until I said, no, I cannot do this anymore. He took my money and I'm not going to let him take anything else. He's not going to take
Yes.
peace. He's not going to take my mind. He's not going to take anything else from me. 'Cause I started
Yes.
how my own, you know, how it was translating into my kids. Sometimes they would see me crying. You know, it was just one of those things that I said, "No, this has to stop."
Yeah.
So, with my husband, we said, "You know what? Let's remove the Band-Aid. Let's remove it once and for all. It
Yeah.
hurts. Yes,
Yeah.
this guy is a scammer. It's so common, it happens."
Yeah.
We had to cash our 401(k)s, we had to get a loan, we had to do all the things that we never thought we had to do, and we finished with a good contractor.
Wow.
And after we finished the house, I was like, okay, we have to look for this guy has to, you know, there has to be a law that he has to pay us back or pay for what he did.
Yeah.
And nothing. We were on our own. We went to the police. The police said it's a civil matter. It's so common. Everybody would be like, that's so common, you know? We went to see lawyers. We had this very good lawyer that said to us, this he said, listen, even if I try, it's gonna
Yeah.
cost you this much money.
Yeah.
You're never gonna see your money back.
There's
These
no
people are
point.
used to closing those companies, closing that LLC, opening a new one. Usually they rent the licenses, so there's no trace, you know. They get a license from the cousin, you know, things like that. They're used to, it's like a pyramid scheme. They're used to grabbing funds from A to finish B to then getting C to finish D. And unfortunately, we were at the bottom of that pyramid,
Oh my
and there
god.
was no funds for to finish our house.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe. And finally, the contractor that we hired, that he was a decent, good human being that finished our home. He had also had issues with collecting payment. So I couldn't believe that this was an industry that moved millions, if not trillions of dollars a year in the
So much
US.
money. Yeah.
And there was no safeguard. There was no safeguard in place. It was just like a trust and handshake. That's all it is in this industry. And the amount of people telling me their stories, I thought my story was hard, but I heard horrible, even more horrible stories. And so I started looking for a solution. That's when I said, listen, he's not going to take my money. He took my money, but he's not going to take anything else from me. I
Yeah.
started looking for a solution, and I started focusing less in the problem and what had happened to me, like I was a victim here. And I
Yeah.
started focusing more on a solution. And
Yeah.
in looking for that solution was when we realized there's nothing out there. And I partnered with a very good friend. She's a very successful real estate attorney. She's been the CEO of an escrow and title company for over a decade. So we decided to create this new product for homeowners and for contractors and just for the construction and renovation industry. And it's a new product. And I'm on the mission. Every time I tell my story, I feel that I'm healing more of what happened to me. I'm on a
Yeah.
mission. I'm on a mission to tell my story and to tell everyone it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to you. It you don't need to go through what I happened. So what
100%.
happened to me. So
100%.
so yeah, that's my story. It's a terrible story, but at the end, I think it was one of those things that I look back and I say, um, it had to happen. I guess it had to happen to me for me to be here right now.
My goodness. Your mindset through this, there was the initial like going through the muck, having it happen, processing it. You're crying yourself to sleep every night. Your kids are seeing all of the emotional reaction to this, which is that's beyond understandable.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how I would react to this. It would gosh, that's so hard. And then you were able to say, okay, this guy took my money. He's not going to take my peace. And you are
Exactly.
able to turn the ship around and say, you know what, let's focus on what we can do. I mean, was there anything that you were doing during that time to help turn your emotional ship around? I mean, was it as simple as like flipping a switch and okay, I'm back to peace, or what were you doing during that?
Yeah, I think the turning point was my kids.
Yeah.
So something happened that it was really sad, and it was, to tell you the story very, very, to summarize the story, my son, he's an avid reader. He reads all the Harry Potter books. He loves all those books and all the
It's a cool kid.
series. So I signed him up for the local library for a summer reading challenge. He won the challenge, and he won
Wow.
a $500 gift card. So he was so
Wow.
excited. Imagine at 10 years old winning at $500. He was a
So
millionaire,
inspiring.
right? He wasn't
Yeah.
on top of everything. He was so excited. And one day we were in the middle of all of this, right? They don't know. They know that, these guys aren't showing up. So they know a little bit. We're not taking, but I'm not crying in front of them, I'm just, so one day I was having issues with the AC guy, he was also missing. Oh, it was like the whole process. Now that I look back and I'm like, my God, it was so stressful. I was losing my hair. Uh, it was crazy. It was crazy. And they went to my husband took the three kids to the park, and they came and they heard me on the phone, and so the AC guy, right? So we paid the AC guy, and he wasn't showing up for months, and we're like,
Mm-mm.
again, this happened to us. I couldn't believe it. Why
And
did I give
HVAC
this to you?
systems are really
Yeah,
expensive, so I can only
it's
imagine how
crazy.
much money.
And
Yeah.
we didn't have any money so imagine that. I was like, this is crazy, and we needed the AC to finish the project, and he wasn't showing up. And when he finally showed up, it was like 2 months after. He was on vacation. He didn't care. He's like, oh, I was on vacation. So I was telling this guy, I was leaving him a voicemail about how I didn't have any money. How can he do this to me? Like, what's up with people? Like, what's the way of conducting business? They're all scammers out there. I was leaving that voicemail, and my son heard me, and I was crying. And when I saw my family that they came in, I was like, okay, I was trying to, and my son told me, Mom, here's my card. Here's my $500 card. Don't worry, we don't need that big house. We don't need that. We're happy where we are. And so I was crying. Everybody was crying, and I think that was the turning point when I said, no, this cannot affect my family anymore. This cannot affect me or my family anymore. So I had to switch like that. It was like a switch. I turned it off and I said, he's not going to take my peace. They're not going to take anything else. Money will come and go. I'll find a way to get it back, but that's it, you know? And so that was, I think, the turning point when he came and he said that to me. I was like, oh my God, I didn't mean for you to listen to that conversation, but he did. So yeah,
That gave me chills. He offered his $500 card that he won from his rating challenge.
I
Oh
know.
my
I know
goodness.
it was so cute. You know, such a kid, you know? They he thought that was going to solve it all, and it did. It did because that changed my mindset. I said, "No, this is not going to affect me anymore." You
Oh
know?
my goodness, sweet boy. Wow. You know what's so cool about all of this is that yes, your children had to see you go through something really hard. And it sounds like your son was the catalyst for helping to switch your mindset and be able to just focus on the solutions moving forward. But what's so cool is that like your kids had the opportunity to see you model what it's like to change your mindset. They had that opportunity to learn like, "Oh, this is what you do in order to move forward." So yeah, like even though your son was the catalyst, he got to see, "Okay, it's possible. Mom can do it. I'm sure I could do it too." And I can only imagine how that was taken forward by him and your other two children moving forward.
For sure, he was the one that made me switch gears, and they saw that firsthand. You know, they saw that yes, adversity this happened to us, but it's how we react to the
Yes.
things that happen to us. That's what matters. And I cried enough, and it's time to move on. Time to move
Yes.
on, do something great out of this. You know,
Yes.
and that's why I tell them every time. Every time I'm talking to someone, every time I'm telling my story, or every time someone's telling me their story, every time we're helping someone with their project, and it goes smoothly, and it goes, and they're happy, and it's just like it's my healing process, you know?
Yeah.
And I kept thinking about the contractor, and I just keep thinking about the solutions, the solution that we're offering to the public, and that's priceless to me.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So really quick, what if you could go back and spot any red flags from this guy, from the HVAC guy, were there any or what did that look like?
All the red flags were falling from the sky. Oh, it was like
Yeah.
they were knocking on my door, but I was
Oh,
not listening. I was not
yeah.
listening. I was in this cloud looking at floors, looking like they know how to distract you. Like he would tell me, now it's time for to go and choose the floor, you know? So I would choose the floor. The floor sat in the property for 2 years before it was installed, to give you an idea. So I was distracted with all the finishes and all the things that I wanted to put in my home, the tub and blah blah blah, and the backsplash in the kitchen and the I was distracted by all of that, and
Yeah.
all the red flags were knocking on my door. He was skipping stages, he was asking for more money, he was saying that he was to order materials. I asked about the materials. He said, "No, they're coming, they're delayed," but I never really looked into, did you really order them? You know, like
Yeah.
I was so I trusted that guy. Like I don't know this person, and I was trusting it with my life savings. That's crazy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I think I was just in these haze, like I was in this high of just pure joy of my of looking at my dream home,
Yeah.
and it stopped me from seeing all those red flags.
Completely get that. Completely. We have a I think it's called a truth bias. I'm not a psychologist, so if I get that wrong, please somebody correct me. But I think it's called a truth bias, and we have the tendency to go out into the world and trust people because people are inherently good and we believe that they have our best interest in mind and all is well and dandy. So it's really easy to look past those little minute red flags that he was sending your way, especially stuff where it's like, oh, he said he has his arms around this thing and this thing is being delayed by somebody else. Like, okay, totally understand. Let's focus on choosing the bathtubs and picking out the new sinks and getting into the romance of all the design process. I totally get it. It is super easy to do. Yep, yep.
And also, I think there's a lot of this would never happen to me, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Like you never think that you are that it's gonna happen to you, you know? You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, that happens only to I don't know who," you know? So there's that thing. It's just like it's a crazy thing. And the more you start realizing that something's up, you start telling yourself like, "No, no, that no, 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 he showed up. He's sick, you know. Oh, his employees are sick." Or, you know, you start doing saying excuses for someone that you don't even know, but it's just because you don't want to get hurt.
Right.
And that's why I think, and I always say that it's the biggest heartbreak of my life because it really set a tone for my future relationships with strangers in a sense, because now I'm like, people are capable of some things. I always go back to the fact that I was pregnant, you know. When I see a
Mhm.
pregnant woman, they're in the most beautiful but vulnerable stage in their lives, you know.
Yep.
and and you try to comfort a pregnant woman. You try to, you know, to help her with everything. And the fact that this happened to me when I was pregnant, I thought he must be a monster. Like, who does
100%.
that to a pregnant woman with a big family? We had a big small young family, you know. So
Oh, yeah.
it's crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was pregnant with my son, I was so sensitive and I felt so vulnerable and I needed so much more help than I expected. You know, I'm
Exactly.
a strong I like to identify as a strong person. I can carry things both, you know, metaphorically and actually physically. Like I like to be strong. And so when I was pregnant and all of a sudden, yeah, I'm still very strong. If anything, I'm stronger because now I'm creating this life. But
Exactly.
I needed help. And just simple things like going up to a public business and having to open the door and it being heavier than I expected and nobody coming up to help me, I felt hurt. So and
Yeah,
that's just a little thing.
exactly. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know what the funny thing about, for example, I am from Colombia, and in Colombia, they're very strict with pregnant women. So if you go to a bank and you're pregnant, you are the first one in line, right?
Wow.
That's there's a line for pregnant women. So
Wow.
here is the same, but I felt that way, and I felt exactly like you described. I've always been a very strong person. But being pregnant and that happening and all the hormones and the kids, and then the first time that you see that you have no money to continue, it's crazy. So it's just one of those things that is just it was a time. It was so sensitive for me. And it really hurt me. It really, really hurt me.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. So fast forward, this inspires you creating your company. You team up with your friend. Tell us more about that process. I mean, how long after your home was finally completed? You know, what did that look like? How old were your kids? Everything.
So so we were still in the process. My home took 4 years to be completed.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy now that I think about it. And there was a time, you know, that I would be like, no, this is going to end. There's going to be a grand finale, and we're gonna have a big party in our home. But it took 4 years. So in that
That's
process,
insane.
when we realized that this guy had scammed us and taken our life savings, and that we had to hire new people, in that process, that's when I started talking to my friend. So my friend is someone that I met in college. She's this amazing entrepreneurial mindset. She's this amazing, she's so smart. She's one of those people that inspires me every day. And and so I talked to her. She's one of those people that she's never giving advice, but I ask her for advice. She's one of those great minds. So I told her, listen, this is happening to me. And she was the one that told me, Anna, you have to move on. You have to move on. It is what it is, but you have to move on. And she had also mentioned, because she has a title in escrow company for the last decade, and she said, listen, also get a lot of calls from pool contractors, roof contractors, that they're having an issue getting their last payment, that they need a solution. And I
Oh,
only offer escrow with title when you buy a property.
right.
So I said, let's do something. Let's create something. There's nothing out there. So I started investigating. We started looking around. There was nothing out there. It's only when you see escrow, it's only if you have a mortgage and you have to put some money in escrow, or
Right.
if you're buying a property, you have to put the deposit in escrow. There's
Yeah.
title search. So there's these sense of that escrow means real estate, right? Which is the truth. But there are so many solutions for escrow that are beyond real estate. And so we created this product. We said, let's come up with something that property owners like myself can use, because some big developers use escrow, just to make sure that their investors know that their money's safeguarded. So, but there's nothing for people like me, there's nothing for
Hmm.
people like me that are embarking in small renovations or large renovations, but they don't have millions to spend in escrow, in
Right.
lawyers and all these. It gets complicated. So
Yeah.
that's why we said we need to create something that is easy for everybody. We want to make sure that this is a standard in the business. That's our mission, to standardize this practice in the business. That
That's
whether
so cool.
you're building or you're renovating your bathroom and it's going to be $10,000, you can know that your $10,000 are going to be safe. Or you're building your $3 million home. Whatever it is that you're doing, we have a product that will make sure that your money, that your funds are protected. And that's our goal. That's our main goal. And we act like a referee. We want to keep. We're not in the side of the property owner. We're not on the side of a contractor. We are right in the middle, making sure that everybody stays honest, to stay transparent, and the project stays on track. And that's all.
That is so beautiful. So if first of all, where were you a few months ago when I was renovating this property that my husband and I invested in? Oh my goodness. I was just a little backstory. I have a client who went through exactly what you went through. But
Okay.
her property was long distance. It was across the country on the East Coast. She was on the West Coast. She hired a guy a GC, a general contractor who seemed like he was great. And then he took
Real
their
estate
money
baby.
and ran. Yeah, no bueno. And so after that happened, I always had in the back of my mind, like, okay, I have to be extra diligent with contractors and always be safeguarded and try to vet as much as possible. And so going into this most recent renovation that my husband and I did, I was so nervous knowing the possibilities. I totally could have used your help and your assistance and you
Next
know,
one, next investment property that you have will for sure be there to help.
and now a quick message from our sponsor. If you've ever played golf, you know that it's more than just a game, it's a statement. Omnix Golf is providing golfers a bold new way to express themselves on and off the course. Their premium golf bags and accessories combine top tier functionality with standout style, empowering you to bring personality to your play. Whether you're aiming for a clean, classic look, like my Omnix golf bag, or you're looking for something that turns heads at the tee box, Omnix has you covered with gear that's as unique as your fashion. Designed for performance and built to last, every Omnix golf product reflects their commitment to quality, innovation, and individuality with unmatched, unrestrained, and vividly bold golf bags. If you're ready to elevate your golf game and style, visit omnixgolfusa.com and try a new bag with their 6-month guarantee. And you can save 10% on your Omnix Golf order with coupon code BUB. That's omnixgolfusa.com, coupon code BUB. Let your gear speak for you, because at Omnix Golf, the course is your canvas. Thank you for staying with us, and back to the show. What service area do you help with? Is it just on the East Coast in Florida, or is it, where do you help?
So we just launched nationwide. So we have customers in California, in Dallas. Like we can service everyone. The funds are safe guarded here in an insured bank in the States, in one of the major banks. We have a lawyer in house, so we have all the safety nets in place, to be able to service everybody really. And that's the idea. That's the idea. We want to make this the standard. We want that every contract, that every public construction project, everybody uses a safeguard net. um it's just crazy to me that this has not been used, or and that there's so many people that come back with, oh, a horrible story, a horror story. It's just crazy.
Mhm. Who are your typical clientele, and are there any additional that you could also serve?
So our typical clientele is people like me. They're embarking in a home renovation, and unfortunately, everyone that I talk to, they've been burned in the past, and they're looking for a solution like the one that we offer. So they already know. So it's easy for them to, yes, let's do this. They understand it. Made. So what we do is, we prepare an escrow agreement. Most of the times, which is funny, is we're dealing with, let's say, $100,000 renovation, and they show us what they have between with the property owner and the contractor. It's just like an invoice, that they did in Excel, and that's the whole contract. They're moving a lot of money. They're moving a lot of money, and there's really nothing talking
Right.
about what materials they're using, what are the expectations. So we
Yeah.
make sure that the expectations are very clear, so that when we hit a milestone in the construction, we can disburse the payment to the contractor right away. There's not going to be any dispute that, oh, I didn't like the way they did this, because the terms are so clear in the agreement that they're all going to be satisfied. Okay, you said that you wanted these like that, and I did it. I need my payment. And the contractors now, after working with us through a property owner, they come back to us because they like how organized and how smooth the project went. So they want to
Yeah.
do the same for the other projects. So we have customers in every range. We have property owners, we have contractors, we have developers. We work with schools, the PTSAs from schools that they want to safeguard the funds. We're starting to work with HOA managers, because now in Florida, there's so many news about HOA managers that run with the funds of the whole complex, or
No.
that they hire their cousin to build a pool, and the cousin did a horrible job. Like, all those stories. So we're now starting to manage those funds for them. And it's quite simple. Like, everyone's happy. The funds are safe. We're just a third party, a neutral. We're the referee in the situation, and the funds are safe, so everyone's okay. And I always tell my customers, what if they ask me, what if my contractor doesn't want to work through escrow? I'm like, that's your biggest red flag. You don't work with them. So
Right.
so yeah, it's little by little that we're going through this process, and it's crazy the amount of stories that we hear. And it's just so satisfying to know that we're making a difference.
Yeah, I bet. It's so interesting. I didn't think about the property management and the HOA management aspect of it, because typically, from what I know, property management companies will collect all of the rent funds, hold them, and then disperse. They'll keep a little bit for themselves because that's their payment, and then they'll disperse the rest of the funds to the owner. So funds go from tenant to manager to owner. And yeah, that thought crossed my mind. What if a property manager decided not to pay the owner, and now they're taking that money and they're running.
Yes, or they're saying, listen, we need repairs, we need Each apartment
Mm.
will pay $2,000 for repairs, and then the big assessment comes. And then 2 years later, the city tells them you need to do these repairs, and they say, "But we paid for this already." No, you
Oh,
didn't. This was never done. So things like that happen, and it's so common. So now we're managing those funds and making sure that the repairs are happening, and that and that we get 3 quotes from the managers. That it's not your cousin that is doing all these repairs, or your brother's company. It's really actually companies that are bidding for these jobs, and they're established companies. So it's a whole process. And for example, with that, I remembered, for example, a client in California. They were so worried about California has very strict laws for lien waivers, for liens. So they hired someone to do their kitchen. They did their kitchen. They paid them. The kitchen was completed, perfect. And then a year later, they were going to sell their home, and they had like two liens placed in their homes from the subcontractors that
yeah.
the guy that they hired never paid them. So they had to
Oh,
pay those people again. So this time around, they wanted to just make sure that wasn't going to happen. So we can take care of that as well. We send lien waivers to all the people involved in the construction, because most of the states, I think it's 15 states, including Florida and California, that do require that. So you can build your home, you can hire someone, you can pay them, they can finish, and then you're set. You're they didn't pay someone, and you're hit with a lien that you have to pay. So sometimes people are paying double of what they intended to. It's just crazy. It's just crazy the amount of room for fraud that
yes.
that's why Build Safe Escrow can just help with all of that.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta say, I'm actually impressed by all these scammers. They're they're really smart in knowing how to wash all this money
They
and make
do,
it work.
they do, and that was my
Crazy.
heartbreak coming from, like, I was like, "This guy would look at me in the eye and just,"
Yeah.
like, they're so good liars,
He should be
you
in Hollywood. That's impressive.
exactly, they should be politicians, right? It's crazy,
Yeah. Oh
it's
my
crazy.
gosh. So, you going back, you start your business. What was that process like? What were you doing beforehand? How did your life change from non-business owner to business owner?
Yeah, so I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, right? I was imprinted with that mindset from a very young age. I would go to my parents' factory. I would see my dad in the lab, doing formulas. I would see my mom, this badass, leader in her office. We would play after school. That was like our second home. We would play with my siblings there. I would just use, in the early 90s, these calculators with printing. So I would just pretend I was working. I remember seeing my sister's playpen in her office. It was part of our life. Like, we knew that that's what I wanted. I knew that I wanted that freedom. My mom, they were very present. My parents, both my parents, in our lives, and we were always very present in their lives as well. It wasn't like their job was their job. Their job was part of our lives as well. So
Yeah.
we were involved in little decisions like the names of a product, something like that. So it was that thing that those life lessons that I always carry with me. And when I graduated college, I started working for a big corporation. So I was doing that. I was traveling. I was single. I was traveling to Latin America. I was having great dinners. It was so beautiful,
Ew.
so
Yeah.
glamorous. And then when
Yeah.
I became pregnant with my first child, I said, I cannot continue this lifestyle. This is not sustainable for the mother that I want to be. And that's when I had that push to say I need to do something. I need to do something. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my third child. So it was a long time for me to finally find something that I was very passionate about, and that I knew that I could be great at this.
Yeah.
It took
Yeah.
long for me to realize, and it took a long time also to launch the company and to really think about it. But that was like what I knew, that I needed to do something. And finally, after so many years, I found really what my true passion is.
Yeah, yeah. How does someone know when they find their passion? Because there are a lot of people out there who don't know what they like to do. What would your advice be to them?
I think it's just when you don't think it's working. I'm always in the computer when I'm very mindful of my time when I'm away from my kids. So I'm always in my computer, and I could spend hours doing what I'm doing, and I'm very focused and happy. I don't see it as a work, as a job, like, oh, I have to send this email. No, I'm like, I love it. That's when I think, for example, I see my husband. My husband has a car rental company. He loves cars. Like, you can talk to this guy about any car, and he's gonna give you the brand, the make, the horsepower. I have no clue about cars. He's
Yeah.
very passionate about what he does. He loves going to, if someone doesn't show up, he loves going there and washing the car. He does everything. So it's one of those things that I want my kids to see from me, that, or from us, that it's not about working. It's just about loving what you're doing, to really enjoying whatever it is. I love being in front of a computer. My husband would never be in front of a computer. I think he's never been in front of a computer for the last 10 years, you know? So it's just what makes you happy. And that's what I really want them that they have the courage to build a life that they want, that they can take risks, and that failure is just an amazing thing, because you can grow from that. There's no growth from success. You can grow from failure. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Embracing failure is the bane of my existence. I'm like, I know logically that it's a good thing. And I think like this perfectionist, I have like a whole backstory about this, but like this perfectionist part of me is just like, no, I don't want to fail because if I fail, then the world's going to explode. I don't know, something ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's really scary. It
It's so
doesn't,
scary.
it's very scary. It's kind of also embarrassing, because
Yeah.
you start something, and then you're embarrassed that it didn't work. It's like, it's very scary, but it's only what makes you grow. It takes you other places that you never imagined. And I had so many businesses before Build Safe Escrow, and they weren't really, I wasn't really working like I am working now, with so much passion. So I think, and then they failed. With my husband, we never see them as failures. We just see them as, okay, it was a great opportunity to learn from something.
Yes.
And I think I'm to that point that I'm not embarrassed anymore.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, how my friends, how did it go? No, we had to close a bit. It's okay. I got to that point that I can think of so many businesses that we opened, and it didn't make that they didn't make it. But yeah, they all took me to where I am now, and I'm very grateful for that.
That is so beautiful, and I'm so excited for your kids to get to learn from you and see how that molds them in the future. Is there anything that you've noticed where they're embracing failure? Is there anything that you're doing at home to help embrace it?
I think it's very hard to translate that into words.
Yeah.
And all I can think of is, for example, one of my kids, he loves skating, and he was jumping from one of the ramps, and and he did it one time, and he was so happy, and then he hasn't done it ever since. So you see him crying, and I'm like, you did it once, it's okay, just breathe in. Just, if you did it once, you can do it again. So
Yes.
it's that
Yes.
thing, and he keeps crying, and you want to go there and hold him, but it's one of those things that they need to work on themselves. But I guess, it doesn't matter how much we say it. I think we just need to prove it. So
Yes.
we're very vocal about the things that have gone wrong, you know, and that how we brush it off. We say, okay, next thing, there
Yeah.
has to be something else. So we'll tell
Yeah.
them, just breathe in. If you didn't make it, it's okay. You're gonna try again tomorrow. So yeah, I think that's very important. But yeah, they're very involved. They know about the businesses. My 6-year-old the other day was talking about escrow. You know, probably
What?
doesn't know what that means, but she's heard the word so much. that she made a sign about it. She said escrow. So it's I think it's like the way I grew up, you know? I was never taught a lesson like sitting down and, you know, giving me lessons. I just saw them working and how they treated people and how they would, you know, handle their business. It was just those things that I'm hoping that they're getting to see that, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's and someday they'll apply that. They're learning that deep inside, and someday they'll, you know, he's gonna be able to go down the ramp and be okay and know that he did it again, you know? That's what my
Yeah. That's so cool. And so tell us, what does your daily life look like? You know, what does your work schedule look like? What does your mom schedule look like? How is that? And how are you nourishing your
it's
relationship too?
crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like all the moms, like it starts very early, you know, it's dark still outside. I start prepping breakfast. I'm very conscious about health, so I make sure that they have a very good breakfast. So I cook them breakfast. I work on the lunch boxes. They're getting ready. My husband leaves very early. He leaves around 5 o'clock every day. So I'm by myself, really juggling everybody, the baby. And we drop after drop off, I go back to the office and I'm very, very focused on work. I had to delete my social media apps because I don't want any distraction. And the time that I'm away from before I have to go pick them up around 3 p.m., I'm very focused on what I need to do, you know? And that's why I said, okay, I'm going to erase these things because I'm just strolling. If I'm bored, no, I'm just going to focus and I'm giving what I'm doing, my complete self, and that's what I do. And then I go back, I pick them up, and when I have to go pick them up, I'm done with work. I'm done with work. I'm still thinking about work, but I have to be very present in their life. So we go to the park, we all go these things, and if they go to bed, maybe I sneak in if I have something in my mind. You know, I don't know if you're one of those women. I think it's something about women that I'm always thinking about my to dos. I'm making constant to dos in my head. So when they go to bed, I have to send a few things that I don't forget. So it's just that I sneak in. That's the beauty about having your own business is that I can show up to their schools. You know, I can show up to their practices, and then if I need to, I'll just, you know, take him to bed and then continue working. So that's the beautiful thing about that. That I have the freedom of doing that, but I'm also very very focused on what I need to do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Those social media apps are dangerous. When I got pregnant, I deleted mine. I'm trying to remember why, but I deleted it and I didn't reinstall it. Or I should say I logged out because I manage social media for other clients, right? So I logged out of mine. I
Yeah.
didn't re-log back in until like 2 years later, maybe. And I remember feeling the mind shift my mindset shift from, like, peace. I was calm, I was calmer, I was better able to bounce back from things without the social media distraction to squirrel, like, every 10 seconds being distracted by something new. You know, I was also more reactive with my social media. So it's a really strange thing. But then also being on it, I do like to connect with people. So it's this love-hate relationship, more hate with the social media. It definitely ruins focus. You mentioned oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there are good. There are people that can do it. Like they have a very good, you know, self control, but I'm not one of those people. So I know
Same.
that I have to like punish myself and erase those things because if not, if I hear like a notification, I'm gonna see it and then I've been half hour look just scrolling. Like what happened to me?
Yes.
So I have
Yes.
to be very mindful of that. And but there's people that don't have that issue, and I love social media, you know, you see all these eh, you hear or from people that you haven't seen in years, so it's
Yeah.
beautiful, but it
Yeah.
can also be very distracting, and
Oh.
so I have to I don't have that self-control that most people have, so I have to do those things, to erase those things. because if not, I'm going to be on it
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just a waste of
If
time.
if there are any listeners out there who have that self-control, please share your tips on how
I
you do
know.
it because I want to know.
I know.
But you know what? It sounds like a very normal thing that everybody gets distracted by social media. That's how the apps are designed. They're designed to work like slot machines and just be, give you that dopamine hit and leave you wanting more, more, and more. And next thing you know, yeah, half an hour has gone by. You've done absolutely nothing that's of value to you in your life, and yeah, it could be a waste of time.
Exactly. It's and sometimes when I'm with the kids, I also, I hear something and then I see that they're still playing. I don't want them to be seeing me in that, because I don't want them to be telling them not to be in that phone when they're looking at me. So I
Yeah,
have to be very I have to, it's not something that comes out to me naturally. That's why if someone gives me a tip, please, because I have to be very, very mindful and I have to put it away. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
cannot be near that if I want to be a good parent or a good business owner. So I have
yeah.
to take that away from me.
Same, same. My phone cannot be in the same room as me. So if I'm working, my phone is out in the rest of the house. My thinking is nothing is really that emergency urgent. Like there's not going to be a giant fire. Let's be honest. It's not going to happen. So I leave the phone in the other room. It will be okay. And vice versa. When I'm out watching my son, I leave it in the office or in my purse or just somewhere else so that he doesn't see me on it. I'm not perfect at that. It's not 100%, but it's something that I'm conscious of.
Exactly. Me too, because I don't want them to, and especially now that, for example, my oldest is 10 and he
Yeah.
started to, oh, but this person has his phone. So I don't want them to start to be one parent that they see and then one parent that they hear. I want them to be
Right.
very conscious of what I do in front of them. Oh, so this is one of the things that I'm still very okay. I have to tell myself, no, I have to get this out of the way. I don't want them to see me there. I don't want them to see me wasting my time doing that. If I'm going to be telling them in the future, not don't waste your time.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that you drop off the kids and then you handle your work. Where are the kids being dropped off to? It sounds like your oldest is 10. How old are your other two and where
So
are
I
they
have a
going?
10-year-old and a 6-year-old that go to the same school. So I drop them off at the same school. And then my 3-year-old, he just turned 3. I dropped them off at a daycare near my house. So it's just I have to go around and it's like like an hour of dropping off everybody.
Well,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's just like a circle that I do and yeah, and it works. And it works. Just a hectic morning. They have breakfast in the car. I prepare their breakfast, which is usually 2 eggs and some Colombian arepa or something like that. And they eat it in the car. Otherwise we won't make it on time. So they're used to it. So they're used to it and it works for us because again, my husband leaves very early, so I'm by myself. So those little things that you have to do not to drive you crazy. And one of the things that I do that I started doing because I wasn't it was to get up early. I was getting up when I the latest I could. I was pushing my alarm and then I was going crazy. I wasn't even ready. So now I'm very conscious about that. I wake up really early. I take care of myself. I take a shower. I do my makeup. I take care of myself and then I can start my day smoother, because before I was just running around and I said, no, I have to do something. And that has helped me so much.
Yeah.
When I'm already ready. So no matter what happens, I'm like, at least I'm showered. At least I took care of myself. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that I was able to learn thankfully early on. I mean, the way that I learned it was kind of rough. It was because I was depressed and I went to a therapist and she like kind of helped me through that. But the major key in being able to turn things around and lift the fog for myself was self-care. And self-care is this really difficult thing. It was a difficult thing for me to comprehend and learn how to appreciate as a mom, because I feel like as mothers, we are taught this this uh this picturesque, you have to be perfect and well put together and have all of the things, but show up for your kids first. It's always like kids first, make sure they're good, and then whatever crumbs are left over, then we can take care of ourselves and use 100% of those crumbs to looking perfect for the world. And
Exactly.
that's just, it's so unsustainable. It's so
Okay.
unsustainable. So for me, I had to learn, like, okay, I actually need an hour of no kid, no husband outside of the house to myself. Or like those little moments of waking up a little bit earlier and doing some yoga, doing some meditation, doing something that kind of helps my mind get right for the day. Like those,
Exactly.
that actually makes a difference.
For sure, for sure. I used to, and I haven't done it in a while. I have to go back, but I used to go to my Pilates class, and and I would tell my husband, it's the hour that I have that I'm not thinking about him. I'm not thinking about the kids. I'm not thinking about the
Yep.
business. I'm
Yes.
just thinking of going through the pain of the exercise that we're doing, right? I'm trying to
Yeah.
survive the pain, and that is the best hour because I'm complete. It's like it's like I rebooted my system, and that's very important. And for me, the taking the shower and being ready before everybody, it's for me, it's very, very important as well. If for some reason I wake up later and I don't do it, I think it sets the day tone for the day, and I don't like it. So I make sure that I get up. But it's just like when you go to the airplane and they tell you to put your mask first, and then it's the same thing. So I always have to remind myself that.
Yeah. Earlier you said your kids eat breakfast in the car because that's what works for you. And I think that phrase right there is key to all of this. It's whatever works for you.
For
Right?
sure.
We're not saying you have to wake up before the sun comes up in order to make sure that your life feels good.
You're a good
That
mother.
doesn't always have to be the case. There are other ways to do self-care and feel good. The key is to just try out all these different things, see what works for you.
For sure, and I think one of the best advices that I've gotten, and it comes from my mother. She would always, when I had my baby, when my first baby was born, I was so scared about everything. I was so scared of giving him a bath. I thought I was going to break him. I
Yeah.
was so scared of breastfeeding. I was so scared of everything, everything. And she would always tell me, and I would always ask her, "What would you do?" She was like, "No, what would you do?" She's like, "Stop listening to all those voices out there and so you can start hearing to your voice. You are the only one that knows exactly what that baby needs."
Yeah.
Don't tell me, I don't know, not anybody, not in social media, not the TV, not this perfect mom that you're following in Instagram. They don't know anything. You stop listening to those voices and start hearing to your inner voice. And that's something I had that I think that made a shift completely. And that's so true.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
works. The having the breakfast in the car works for me, because I don't like to they don't get up so easily. I have to go be constant, "Hey, we have to get up. But it is what works for you. For me,
Yeah.
that routine in the morning, it's what works. And I didn't do that at first. We would be so late to school, it was so hectic. So now it's just what we found that it works, and it works for everybody, and that's what matters.
I love that advice. It's so good to get quiet and think about what feels the best. And it is hard to do in this age of social media. Google, right? You go on and you Google, why isn't my child sleeping? You don't do that, by the way. Just don't do it. You will find pages and pages and pages of differing advice. It's
But
all confusing and overwhelming. And so my parents' generation, I hear this all the time from my parents, aunties, uncles, whoever, and they're like, "Wow, you're so lucky to get to be a mom or a parent in this day and age with Google, because back when we had no Google, and I get that. I get that. I can imagine how lost you would feel without any sort of guidance other than friends, parents, people in your immediate circle to lend that advice to you.
For sure.
But, flip side of the coin, nowadays, when you have that Google social media, it's overwhelming. There's just so much information being thrown at you. And at the end of the day, we just have to decipher what feels the best for us. Period.
Exactly.
Dot.
Exactly. And there's scary information, you know. My son,
Yes.
he's teething, and then you start seeing all these pictures, and you're like, oh my God, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. We have to lower that volume a little bit so we can start, focusing on what our gut feeling is telling you. Yeah. Just to
Yeah.
trust that you're a smart person, that trust you. I remember I was in so many Facebook mom groups, and one day my husband said, "Why are you worrying about what this lady, her son is not sleeping? Like, why are you getting all those worries? You have your own problems." Like, what? And I was
Right.
like, "That's so true," because I would love to read all the moms, do, and then all the comments. I'm one of those that goes to the
Yeah.
comment
Oh,
box.
same. I love the comments. You
And
find the juiciest stuff in the comments?
Yes, I would be like, "I agree with you, I don't agree with you," And, and then I'm like, "That's true." I'm like, "Why am I so caught up in other people's problems?" So that's the thing about social media. And that's why I think it's more difficult now to be a parent because our parents didn't have that. They only have the grandma that, you know, was giving advice, and that's it. But yeah, now we're hearing advice from everyone, from everywhere.
Everywhere, all at once. It's so
Exactly.
much. It's so much. Yeah, that gut feeling is so helpful in parenting. It's also very helpful in business as well. You
Exactly.
know whether or not the thing that you're trying out, whether it's a new business or a new business marketing strategy or whatever it is, you know whether or not it's a fit. If
Exactly. And that's a great thing that you brought it up because that translates exactly to business. When I stopped asking people for their opinion. Because if I had an idea of something and I would run it by people, I would be they would scare me. I would be discouraged. I would thought, no, yeah, it's a silly idea. And then I would be like, why? Like, I'm just going to
Yeah.
do it. If it's a
Yes.
silly idea and if it doesn't happen, then at least I did it. So I stopped asking for advice or opinions. And then you realize that people that are giving you opinions have never had a business in their lives? So at the end, I'm like, you are being discouraged from something that they don't even know. And so I stopped asking for opinion until it's done. So I do have a few people or a few sources that I like to run my ideas by, but they're usually people that have been business owners that have failed in the past,
Mhm.
that
Mm.
have been successful also. So I now I am a little more um like I know who to ask those things because I know that if I ask other people, they're just gonna scare me more. And like you
Yes.
say, entrepreneurship is already so scary, because of failure. You're scared to fail. So I just stopped asking other people or running my ideas by other people and
Yeah. Yeah.
listening
Because
to
at
my.
the end of the day,
Hmm.
yeah, at the end of the day, they cannot step into your intuition and speak for it. They can only speak from their own experience, which is their own lifetime of different hurts and things that they could be projecting onto you. So it's really smart to be discerning about who you share your ideas with, who you're vulnerable with, and just know that if your gut is telling you to do something, try something new and it feels crazy, you gotta give it a shot. You'll always wonder whether or not you should have done it if you never had.
For sure, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Anna, so many gems. I'm so excited for the future of your business.
Thank you.
I can say as somebody who is renovating properties and working in that space too, I've got a little side hustle going on. Like, thank you for what you're doing. You are protecting people with your business, and gosh, that means the world because you were brave enough to step into a space that didn't currently exist and you disrupted it. You just said, you know what? There needs to be something here. Let me go for it. So thank you. Thank you for your courage. And I'm excited for your kids too.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here to tell my story. I don't mean to scare anybody. I just
Yeah,
want
no.
them to feel that they have the weapons to go into these battle, and feel that they're powerful, that they're in control. I don't want anybody to feel the way I felt. It's just the worst heartbreak. It's just the worst feeling. You lose like your it's horrible. So I just want to offer something that feel people feel protected, that their funds will be protected, that their project will stay on track. It's just going to be something simple, and I hope that it's the standard in the industry. I hope it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Where can people find you if they want to hire your business or if they want to reach out to you directly, ask a question? Where are you?
For sure. They can go to buildsafeescrow.com. We are on Facebook as Build Safe Escrow. We're on LinkedIn as Build Safe Escrow. We have a YouTube channel as Build Safe Escrow as well. They can give us a call, 855-611-3532. They can send me an email. I answer all of my emails. Anna with one N at buildsafeescrow.com. I love to talk to people. I love to hear about their projects and give them advice. Not all of the projects need to go through escrow, but most do. So just I can't wait to hear from everybody and to be able to help them with their project.
Huge. Beyond Safe Escrow, everybody. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom with us.
It was such a great time. I had such a great time. Thank you so much for this space.
Thank you for joining us on Bringing Up Business. If you could, please take a moment to subscribe to and rate the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at bub.podcast. That's BUB.podcast. Finally, we'd love to get your feedback. If you have a comment or a guest idea, please let us know on our website, bringingupbusiness.com. Until next time, thanks for joining us. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye. See you later.
Bye-bye. See you later.
This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be considered business advice. Opinions expressed are as of the date of recording and are subject to change without notice. The views and opinions of guests on this program are not necessarily those of Umari Digital and its affiliates, which together we refer to as Umari Digital. Umari Digital is not affiliated with guests or their business affiliates unless otherwise stated. Umari Digital does not guarantee the accuracy or the completeness of the data presented herein. This recording is for informational purposes only, and the information, data, analysis, or opinion it includes or their use should not be considered business, financial, or legal advice. Umari Digital shall not be responsible for any decisions, damages, or other losses resulting from or related to the information, data, analysis, or opinions or their use. All business decisions are subject to risk, including possible loss of capital. Individuals should seriously consider if a decision is suitable for them by referencing their own financial position. Thank you.